So so yeah, here we go. We're doing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and I definitely bit off more than I could chew with this one. Oh yeah, no, I it actually worked out better for me because like up until like maybe like 10 minutes ago, before I like 10 minutes before I started it, I was still editing and setting it all up in OBS. Um Mic is clipping. Okay. About now? Right there. Yeah, so cool. So yeah, I started off. I was just gonna do PS1 and the PS2, and then I looked into it more, and it turns out the N64 version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is the very last game they ever made for the 64. So I figured I should include that as well. And then I was just kind of just like, you know, for fun, I threw in the Game Boy Advanced one, but then I like noticed that the Game Boy Color version is completely different than the Game Boy Advance. Yeah, GBA versus PS2. um, I wanted to do the Xbox version because I mean, to be honest, that's the best one because it has an additional level that the PS2 version doesn't. But to get it to emulate on the Steam Deck, it's just not that easy right now. That being said, I was able to get to do all of this, all the game capture and everything using emulators on the Steam Deck, even the 64 version. The extra level on, I'll just get to it now. The extra level for the Xbox One is called Oil Rig, so it's an oil rig, but I guess they remade it and added it into American Wasteland. So you okay? There you go. Yeah, so that wasn't included on the PS2 version. Yeah. Um, and then let's see where we at. Yeah, I'll discuss the. I have a segment for all the levels, so I'll get to that in a second. I think that being said, though, we could get started. Also quick caveat for I wasn't able to capture every level in every version because of the way I the time constraints I had, and then some things weren't unlocked. Some games don't have the right kind of cheat codes to get around like level skips and stuff. But I may do with what I have, and then I'll let you know as we go what we're missing, and then all that. A bit off enough. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is quite a bit. All right, so let's start with the PlayStation intro. So, quick caveat: the intro song, if you remember, it's Ace of Spades from Motorhead. So I panned all the audio to the left in case it like they send me a copyright thing. I think I could just mute the left side of this part of the clip, and then they should let it slide. But considering like what we're doing with it, we're not like selling anything. I don't think they would, but let's see what happens. We'll start with the PlayStation intros. I want you to keep in mind. Actually, we'll save it. Let's go for it. The video clip that's like of the skaters and stuff at the beginning, it's pretty much exactly the same. It's just a lesser resolution and frame rate on the PlayStation version. And there's one added little like company logo right after the Neversoft one. Oh, that's loud. So I think from here on out, I don't do any more audio from any of the other versions. I think we only do okay. We only use the PS2 audio for everything else, um, because it's basically the same audio clips. It's not like the Mission Impossible where it's completely different. Just in case, I'm going to lower the volume of this a little too. Um, yeah, it's basically the exact same thing. it's kind of cool that they were able to like cram that in onto the PS1 disc. Oh, I didn't realize that until just now. Yeah, so I know, right? All the intros for these games. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's better frame rate and then better resolution. Okay, I think it's getting close to the breakdown of the song, right? Okay, right here. And then this little breakdown. And then right here. Remember all of that? It's only done one time in this whole song. Just remember that, okay? Like the way it's been recorded, the way it is in these versions. Okay? He says, don't forget the Joker exactly one time in the song, and it's right at the end, right? Now, and the PlayStation versions, you get these cool like skate videos, right? This whole mashup of all the skaters doing their shit. The 64 version got done dirty. Check this out. I don't even want to say anything. Just watch. I guess I left the logos a little long than I thought. Damn, I could have sped that up. Okay. They just tried to like make a little video. But it's also a weird little mashup remix of Ace of Spades. Right there. There's one. And then repeat the breakdown. And all those pauses are in game. That's not a glitch or anything on the stream. Alright, straight to the breakdown. Breakdown bit for a third time. It's so ridiculous. This is such a weird matchup. I feel like I'm forgetting something that I've been reminded of 3 times already. Oh. Yeah, for real. man. That was it. And that too. Like, I didn't press a button, it just cuts out and goes straight to the menu. So that was the 64 intro. We're going to work our way backwards here. Yeah, it totally seems like a beta, but it was made, I think, like 2 or 3 years after the PS2 version, and it's the last game ever made for the 64. It's like you want to credit them for trying, but at the same time, why would you try like that? Like, why did the song have to be cut up like that? Like, it's so weird. I want some answers. Okay, so let's go with the Game Boy Advanced intro. This one, they just throw you right into it, basically. There's nothing special. You boot it up, and you're in your main menu, right? That's a little loud. One thing to take notice, if you look at the top of the school bus, why not 360? Oh, 350 skate? Yeah, that's weird, right? But yeah, if you look at the top of the school bus, it says the level that you're about to play. You select the level in the menu there, right underneath career mode, and then it'll change it on the bus. I don't think I captured that. Oh, and then after about 30 seconds, if you don't do anything in the menu, it'll go into like a demo mode really quick. So, and that was made obviously like much after the Game Boy Color version. There's more detail in the GBA than the 64. Yeah, so the Game Boy Color version, I think, came out around the same time as the PS1 and PS2, and GBA came out around the same time as the 64. So I feel like the Game Boy Advance version, and we'll notice as we go through it, it just seems like it's very phoned in. And to be honest, I'm really impressed with the Game Boy Color version, because I didn't even know it existed the way it is. I thought it was just a copy of the other one. But let's take a look at the intro for that. A little 8-bit little tune. It goes places too. I'll show you in a second. Don't forget the Joker. I love that little like dip that it takes right there. I know shit. Left it recording for 10 straight minutes. And there's like 2 or 3 other songs that like are throughout the game, like in the character select menu and the level select menu or something. So they're a little bit different. Me too. I'm not sure if you noticed the starting soon screen, all of that music is just from the Game Boy Advance version. So, okay. I left it longer than I thought. Oh, that sounds pretty cool. All right, let's get into the skaters. Throw us over here. So, I'll go into that afterward. Let's just play the clip here. There are some noticeable differences in these in some of the skaters. Yeah, I did. I basically took every clip and gave it its own preset. I pre-edited the clips to where I could fit the camera and the chat around it, and then it didn't turn out perfect, but it'll work for this. So here's what we got. I muted all the audio accidentally on this, I guess. So let me pause it really quick. If you notice, The Game Boy Color one's cool. There's little like drawings of each skater, right? Thick Tony PS2. That's the problem with PS2 capture is like it'll the aspect ratio could be either. And I used to be able to capture it square, but I don't know what happened. um, so if you notice in the PS1 version, it doesn't show the stats of the characters. It's just a list of each one. But the 64 version shows the stats. And then the character select on the Game Boy Advance, it's still on the main menu. You just surf through, basically. Just go through a comparison of each one here. I didn't zoom in. Oh, wait, wrong one, sorry. It's just scary in every version, yeah, for sure. Okay, first noticeable difference here. Like big noticeable difference. Uh he yeah, he's wearing completely different clothes in the PS2 and PS1 version. They copied it on the 64 and both the Game Boy versions are based off of the PS2 version. It's kind of that way with all the other characters that are different except for Bam, which I'll show you in a second. That special trick, yeah. I always thought it was dope in this that he's got like a boombox and shit. Like, also like focus on your skating. Why do you have a boombox? I feel like you put yourself at a big disadvantage there. Rally. Oh, I think I zoom in on Rally. Rally isn't wearing a hat in the PS2 version. Other than that, his clothes look kind of the same, only like they're buttoned up. He's got different colored shoes. Shoes are HD as fuck. Yeah, they are. Ah! Going back. Whoops. Really quick. Oh, never mind. So yeah, it's same thing. PS2, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color all seem to be based off the same. Jamie Thomas in his Freddy Krueger shirt. I didn't zoom in here, but if you notice in the PS2 version, he has longer hair, and he's kind of like buzz cut in the other one. Yeah. I think what it is, it's more like detextured. Hello. Oh, got a Tony Hawk fan here. Cool. So we're comparing the PS2, PlayStation, N64, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color versions of them. We're not gonna be able to cover every little detail of it, but I did get quite a bit of footage captured here. So here's what's interesting about Bam in this. Like it seems like every version is a little different. Like the 64 version, he's got like a slightly darker sweater, but the Game Boy Color version, he's wearing that white sweater. He doesn't see it, whereas everything else seemed to be based off of the PS2 version. The Game Boy Color version of Bam seems to be based off of the 64 and the PS1. So that's what I found was pretty interesting. They kind of like broke their mold right there. Just for shits and giggles, here's the outliers. Wolverine. Officer Dick looks completely different. It's like a completely different person. Like I can't even really make out his face in the PS1 version. Private Carrera. These are just like the remaining characters on PS2 that I was able to capture. I just threw it in there for shits and giggles. This is pretty funny. Watch him. He starts to burn, and then when I flip it, he like grows back really quick. Watch. It like shrinks down too. It's weird. He's like, oh, okay, I'm okay. Your custom skater, I went over it a little too fast. Let me rewind. In the Game Boy Advance version, he's like shirtless before you like do anything to him. There's Darth Maul. Just choking that dude out. So that's most of the characters. In addition to that, the PC version, you can play as the Doom guy. The Xbox version, you play as Skeleton. You could also unlock Sean Palmer in the GBA version. And also in the GBA version, you could also unlock a character called Mindy. I guess she's someone from American Wasteland, but you can actually play as her in the GBA version. There's also 3 Japanese skaters in the Japanese versions of the games that you could play as. That was all about Daisy from 4. For sure. So I think that about covers all the skaters. Let's go into levels, overviewing the basics of the levels here. I didn't really capture much to introduce the levels other than the Game Boy Color versions because there's something interesting with it. So also keep in mind the Game Boy Color version, there's only 3 levels I had unlocked. I didn't have time to unlock any other ones, so I'll show you those, but these are all the levels that you could play. So there's the Skater's Island, Airport, Paris. So Paris is a level, I guess, that was supposed to be in all of the versions, like the PS2 version and everything, but they canceled it. The only game that they actually made it for was the Game Boy Color. So it would have been nice if I could unlock that and then show you it, but like I said, just time constraints. I literally found out it existed like 2 days ago. Thank you. I tried. So, let's see here. Got you Rio, Los Angeles, Tokyo, Foundry. Now, Canada. They did Canada in the Game Boy Color version, which obviously... Oh, I did actually capture this one. They did Canada in the Game Boy Color version, but they didn't make it in the Game Boy Advance version. It's like excluded. Not sure why. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they just phoned in the Game Boy Advance version of it. Yeah, it's one of mine too. Let's get into the first level. Oh, you had it on game. I didn't even think about looking into the GameCube one. I wonder how that would have emulated. Shit. And I don't think there's anything exclusive in the GameCube one either. Nah, according to my notes here. All right, let's move on to the first level, Foundry. So unlike Mission Impossible, when we did that, when I was able to follow the pathways perfectly, it's a little more sporadic. So, okay, thank you. It's a little more sporadic. I don't follow my exact same pathways. I just try my best to kind of cover the level as much as I can and line up the footage so you can kind of compare it. So it's not going to be as clean as Mission Impossible, but you'll still get a feel for everything. So let's start Foundry. Yeah, it does help. Also, I think I mentioned already, the PS2 version and the PS1 version, you unlock the levels at different times. I think the second level of the PS1 was LA, if I'm not mistaken, whereas it's Canada and PS2. Yeah, the Game Boy Advance version, you can see they just they copied it decently enough. The Game Boy Color version, I'll show you it zoomed in a second. Not so good. He's just falling all over. To be honest, I wasn't paying much attention when I was capturing all this footage. I was more focused on capturing the levels. And then I paused the other ones here so you could kind of see an overview of like that angle of everything and kind of see how different everything is while those play out. Not too good at the GBA one. To be honest, though, they're fucking hard, especially the Game Boy Color one, which I'll show you in a second. Because I know like it's too zoomed in to really get in there. So I just for the Foundry level, I did like a zoomed in version. Yeah, and it's like the more I mess with it, like I'm kind of impressed the way they did it. So like, you only have your A and B button, right? So you use it both for doing your ollies and your grab tricks, and then I think you do flip tricks by pressing the directional buttons. But you also, I'll just play it. Yeah, it's really clever the way they pulled this off. So if you notice, you only travel left and right. Okay? So watch when we get to the side here. To travel up to the next level, you have to use the quarter pipes. And then I'll put you at the next level up. Or to get down. And it's cool, like having like the limited amount of buttons. The more you play it, you know, and as the better you get at it, I assume this would get really fun trying to like mow through it all. This one, I think I'm gonna keep on it and then just just play with it when I'm not doing anything or standing in line somewhere, you know. I'm really impressed with the Game Boy Color version. Like I said, I thought it would be the same as the Game Boy Advance, but they actually did they did it completely different. And even the sounds, like it's like so 8-bit, you know? Okay, let's do... Okay, so just really quick, when I was capturing some of these levels, the PlayStation versions, I was able to just use a cheat code and unlock all levels, you know, so that was fine, no problem. Oh, you know what? Nah, fuck it. So the N64 version doesn't have a level select cheat. So the workaround that it does have that it doesn't include on the PlayStation versions is a jetpack mode cheat. And that made shit way easier. Yeah, I could use a Game Shark, but the way I have my emulator set up now, I did it through EmuDeck on the Steam Deck. It's really hard to get Game Shark stuff to work. But this jetpack cheat is really cool. I wish it was included in almost every game. Like it really made capturing the 64 stuff a lot easier. But so from now on, you're gonna see all the 64 footage. I'm just like floating around. And it also like it made like all the competition shit way fucking easier. I was just trying to see how high up I could get and how high of a score just to like blow through all this. It was the quickest way to unlock the levels and capture the footage. Yeah, you just like fly around like a witch on a broom. Yeah, like I think all you do is just hold one button, and when you hold it, you go up. When you release it, you go down. Yeah, try it out on the 64 version. There we go. Just to show you an example of why I'm going to be floating around in all the rest of them. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying this. So let's move on to Canada. Rodney Mullen. Okay. Um, so what happened with Canada? I think Canada. So remember, Canada, the Game Boy Advance, they didn't make a Canada level, so we only get Game Boy Color with them. Once again, audio is only from the PS2 version. It's pretty much the same sound effects in the other ones, but a little higher quality and some more. See these backwoods area? There's like no trees at all, like in the previous gens. I know it might be a little distracting. Everyone's probably just gonna be watching the N64 one. But I think on this, there's nothing that really outlies other than the different textures and stuff like that. Some of my footage is a little corrupted here and there, so I had to kind of cut some of it out. But I'm look at how like sprawling the Canada level is on the Game Boy Advance version. Once you go up and down like the half pipes and stuff, the quarter pipes. As I eat shit right there. Oh, there was something else too. Shit. I missed it, but the pools and stuff in the previous gens, they're a lot more shallow than the ones in the PS2. So that was Canada. Let's go to Rio. Rio, it's one of the ones I didn't have unlocked in the Game Boy Advance, so we're not going to see that one. Or in the Game Boy Color one, so we're not going to see that one. So, if you notice the previous gen versions, the weather's kind of like Twilight, whereas it's like blue sky, sunny. The roads have no vehicles in the previous gen. There's no crowds up in the balconies. There's no the lines in the road are different. Like there's no divider lines. There's just the double solids. It's just some creepy audio. I thought I was like, what the hell? They're just like laughing at me. That car braking for sure. Or like when you go over like the when you go over the cobblestone. So I also tried to show like you could see all like the whole neighborhood in the back, like the Rio slum neighborhood in the back there. But it in the previous gen you can't even see that far out. It culls it all out. Got a 29 on GBA. Yeah. Hey, you could have captured this footage for me, man. Just saying. Okay, so let's move on to Suburbia. I believe that's the last one that I was able to get Game Boy Color footage of. And Suburbia, it's pretty wild. I gotta try to pause everything at the right moment here, because there's some big differences. So that backyard, there's like the people grilling and stuff. There's no one in the previous gen. So if you notice, the background, it's kind of like a snowy, like Alps looking skybox in the back, whereas it looks more like yeah, it looks more like a rolling hill in the next gen. Also, you can't really see it, but that haunted house that's in the PS2 version, it's pretty much inaccessible. I'll show you a little later in the clip, but you can't access it in the previous gen. It's just off in the distance as a little piece of scenery. Yeah, they tried hard there. And the 64 version, it culls everything out and just kind of like puts like a fog over everything to where you can't even see that far. So let's see here. Once I make it off the roof. He did. All right, check this out. So notice how in the PS2 version, the ice cream truck's like circling around the cul-de-sac. In the other versions, it's just stationary. It's playing the same little tune though.
See it.
Also, right here, PS2 version, there's this fire truck putting out like a burning house. In the previous gen, there's like a crane in front of a construction site, or the construction site. No fire truck in the old versions. So yeah, the haunted house area you could completely go through. I think there's even some goals in career mode related to it. He did. Yeah, it's just completely fenced off in the other ones. Let's see here.
Hey, what happened to all our
Yeah, so all right, right there. So yeah, so you could totally go up those stairs and go hang out in the haunted house on the PS2 version. This is all you get to see of it in the 64 and PS1. But even the Game Boy Advance version, you get to go all over it. There's even like a weird little creepy butler guy walking outside of it. The Game Boy Color one, possibly. I just didn't put it on here. I think the Game Boy Color one, it's completely in that haunted house territory for the most part. It is there, it's just hard to make out. Right there. But there's nothing that's distinguishing it. So yeah, that's Suburbia. Another one that has major differences is this next one here, Airport. So if you notice right away, Jesus, oh no, don't start that. So if you notice right away, your PS2 version, it takes place during the day, and the PS1 version takes place at night. Game Boy Advance version, it's like really small. It doesn't go down as many flights of stairs as the other ones. I was going to show all the audio for each time you pass through the metal detector, but it's the exact same audio. Alright, check this out too. So right here, PS2 version, you can see clearly out that window. PS1 version, you could see pretty good out the window, even though it's nighttime. N64, you can't see shit out the windows, right? But I noticed something as I was capturing the footage. I clipped through the wall, and they still render the plane behind the wall, even though you can't see it. Then also, PS2 version has this whole like underground baggage claim area underneath this section. It's not in the 64 or the PS1 version. So my guess with that, Ben, would be, you know, the 64 version, they basically took the PS1 version and ported it over. So that stuff was rendered in the back, but they probably just deleted as much as they could, and then like fogged out those windows. But they probably had enough memory left or whatever to be able to keep that. But it's just weird. So next up is LA. We're almost done here. We're getting towards the end. We have 2 more levels. I don't think there's a whole lot to go over with LA other than there's the same deal where there's a fire truck in the PS2 version that's not in the other ones. Oh, and also we're out of Game Boy Advanced and Game Boy Color, so it's only these 3 from now on. There is an LA level in the Game Boy Advance one. I wasn't able to unlock it though. Earthquake Rail, that's right. In career mode, I never did. I should have done that on this. Fuck. Damn. Oh well. But yeah, the Game Boy Color one, we only had those 3 levels unlocked. Game Boy Advance, I had pretty much everything except for this. Yeah, it was. I wish I was able to get the Xbox version in here though, because I think it probably would look better. But who knows? I just think it's really interesting that they did port it out so much. You know, it's an entirely different game. You know, they had to program entirely different games for each version.
What you got?
You know. Yeah, I crashed through it, but the audio's it's the same sound effect, so you won't hear it on the other one. Oh, I think we're done with PS1 footage too. That's another thing I gotta mention after this. So yeah, you notice that there's that fire truck putting out a burning building. It's just non-existent in the other one. All right, we got 1 more level yet left. So just quick caveat or quick thing here. Public service announcement. If you're ever transferring over video footage, never use the move option, because that will copy your footage, then delete it. Copy it, and then once you confirm that you have it copied, then delete it. I used the move function on my Steam Deck to copy all the footage over, and half of it got corrupted, so I had to re-record like half of this shit. There you go. Yes, I totally fucked up, and I learned my lesson. Don't do that yourself. Now let's move on to Tokyo. So some major differences here. There's like the little like holographic looking floating deal up above, which I don't think we could really see yet, but it's yeah, it's like red in the PS2 version right there, but it's like a weird little like blue flowy looking thing in the previous gen. Yeah, it's way more like neon lit for sure. The 64 version actually, it looks a little brighter than the PS1. Come to think of it. Yeah, this little thing that I'm on the 64 version, it's like red in the PS2. I don't even know what the hell that thing is. Weird. It's supposed to be a weird Japanese hologram or something. Oh my god. Looks terrible on 64. Yeah, true that. I just realized I forgot to add one clip in here. Bear with me 1 second. Hey, yo, I just realized there's a couple clips I forgot to add here. Let me see if I could make it work really quick. To start with, we forgot to do Skater's Island. And oh, I think you guys could hear it, but my audio is not monitoring it. One thing I did notice when doing Skater's Island, that little door that's ahead of me there, I don't know if there's something you have to do to open it to get to the outside area, but it's like inaccessible from the start, whereas the PS1 and N64, you could just go right outside. That would make sense. Yeah, you gotta like open it up, maybe hit a door, but they just let you go right outside in the PS1 and N64. That was the end of my PS2 footage, so there's just the last two there. And then okay, so we got one more here, but let me just get rid of this and this. So some levels that we weren't able to cover, we got in the PS2 version, we have a remake of Warehouse, Burnside, and Roswell. I did record the footage, I just didn't have time to include it here. But we have Warehouse, Burnside, and Roswell. They remade all of that just like they did in the new Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake or whatever. And then also that I mentioned earlier, the oil rig was in the Xbox version only, and then they remade it in American Wasteland. Game Boy Advance had a level called The Zone that was exclusive to Game Boy Advance. And then I also mentioned the Paris level, which was Game Boy Color only and canceled on all the other platforms. So other than that, I also did not edit the footage of the cruise ship. The PS2 and Xbox version had the cruise ship level. What GBA did you have? What are you talking about, like the actual console? Mine originally was just a blue one, but my grandma had that clear one. That you like customize your Switch, the case that you use on your Switch. So I wasn't able to edit the footage for the cruise ship in time, but considering that level's not included on the 64 or the PS1 version, they had their own exclusive level. Let me just pull it up real quick. So this here, this one's called Downhill. And this is just the 64 and the PS1 version. And this is going to be the last one that we have for the night here. Yeah, and I noticed the 64 version, you're just kind of chasing the skybox down the hill. But the PS1, they tried to kind of like hide it with some shading and shadows. So the 64 version is kind of lame for this level at least. It's just like, it's really distracting seeing that big skybox, and it looks like they noticed that when doing the PS1 version, so they kind of shadowed it out. Cityscape. I didn't notice much difference other than slightly less textured, and it also keeps culling out in the 64 version. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're chasing a picture. So that was it. That actually worked out pretty good. We got a good amount of time out of that one. But yeah, there's a lot more I wanted to do. Had I had more time, maybe I shouldn't have done every fucking version of the game I can. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I never had the backlighted SP or whatever. Yeah, I like that. Like, I was thinking of maybe trying to do. I was originally gonna do Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 together, but then once I started putting the 64 version of 3 in the mix, which, you know, obviously they didn't make one for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 because it was the last 64 game. But once I started doing that, I was like, okay, this is getting too much. You know what? That's actually was like a big inspiration of me doing this. That and what is it? The She Says YouTube channel where he does like the boundary break stuff, where he like takes the camera around and stuff. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, man, I'm gonna go. We got our cooking stream is on schedule for tomorrow, and then we'll figure out what game we're playing Wednesday. Later, man. Thanks for watching.